Hello, my name's Corey Hughes, and we're going to be discussing e-cigarette hazards today. So, today we're going to discuss a few things. We're going to discuss what e-cigarettes actually are. We're going to talk about the good things about e-cigarettes, the bad things, the ugly things, and the even uglier things about e-cigarettes. And then purpose was usually do not contain tobacco, so they don't have the tar that sticks to your lungs. But what they do is they utilize an e-liquid. So there are good things about the e-cigarettes. Like I mentioned, they are arguably better than traditional smoking, and they're very popular. Around 10% of the population has tried e-cigarettes at least once, and a little bit less than 5% currently use e-cigarettes. But with people that are trying to smoke, it can be a better alternative than quitting cold turkey or trying other things like Nicorette patches and Nicorette gum. But when you look at people that are smokers, about 50% of former smokers have tried e-cigarettes once, and a little bit less than 50% of current smokers have tried e-cigarettes once. But when you look at people who currently use e-cigarettes, 20% of current e-cigarette users were former smokers recently. So they've quit smoking within 1 year, and about 15% of people that use e-cigarettes are current smokers. So there are bad things about e-cigarettes as well. I did mention that they do include some of the same chemicals, but in a lower quantity. So when we look at things like formaldehyde and acetaldehyde and acrolein, these are toxic chemicals as well. These are cytotoxic, they're carcinogenic, and they're irritants. Now, toluene, which is also included in both e-cigarettes and traditional cigarettes, are carcinogenic and neurotoxic irritants. Now, NNN, or N-nitrosornonicotine, is also found in e-cigarettes at a slightly lower rate, and NNK, which is also found in traditional cigarettes, are found in e-cigarettes at lower rates. Now, it seems at this point, on paper, that e-cigarettes are still not good for you, but are less bad than traditional cigarettes. Now, another issue with e-cigarettes is that e-cigarettes are pretty inconsistent. They were only recently regulated by the FDA, and really what you're getting out of them may vary by the brand or model, and you really can't control that unless you're creating your own e-liquid for your e-cigarettes. You really don't know what exactly is in them, which a lot of people don't for cigarettes either. Now, the ugly is, it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's very popular among people, among smokers, but it's also very popular with people. Period. You'll see that the age demographic between 18 through 24, over 21% have tried e-cigarettes, and that goes down a little bit as people age. But 12.6% of all adults have tried e-cigarettes at least once. So they're very popular among the younger generation, but are just very popular in general. So if you're not smoking, but you start smoking e-cigarettes, then that may not be good for you. But if you're a smoker and it's your way to stop smoking, it may be a little bit better on paper. Now, the even uglier thing about e-cigarettes is that they are very popular among the younger generation, including high school and middle school age children. So if you look at the graph here, you can see that e-cigarettes have risen exponentially in popularity over the past few years. If we look at the graph, you can see that in 2011, for e-cigarettes specifically, it was not extremely popular with the younger generation, but it's gone up to almost 15% of high school age children that have tried or that have used a tobacco product within the last 30 days. So that's jumped up significantly for for the high school age demographic, which is terrible. It seems like the e-cigarettes are advertised towards a younger generation because of the different flavors and the availability. And like I mentioned, they were not heavily regulated until recently. 2016 was when they were regulated, and they've been on the market for over a decade. So, in summary, e-cigarettes are a very popular alternative to smoking. They are possibly less harmful, but they're still very new, so we don't really know that much about them. People have been smoking cigarettes for the past 100 years, so we've been able to do research on regular cigarettes and find out they're pretty terrible. But e-cigarettes, they're not as researched yet. We might find out in the next 15, 20 years how bad they may be, but at this point, on paper, they seem like they're a little bit better. They're a pretty successful alternative for the people that do smoke. So it's great to see that people are finding some way to prevent themselves from smoking. They have, but they still do have harmful chemicals inside of them. They're, like I mentioned, they're not as bad as smoking on paper, but they still do have some of the cancer-causing chemicals in them. They are pretty inconsistent. They're not regulated very well, and you really don't know what you're getting out of your e-liquid. And it's become extremely popular among adolescents who shouldn't really be smoking in the first place. And here are my references.